The US election is like a big reality show. Every 4 years, Americans pick a new president. In 2024, it's going to be a wild one. How the US deals with China will matter a lot. China's a big deal, economically and politically. They have a strong military. The next president must handle this big old dragon. On one side, we have Kamala Harris, a Democrat. On the other, Donald Trump, a Republican. You'd think they'd have different ideas about China, right? But both parties are leaning towards being tough on China. It's like choosing between two flavors of ice cream. They're different, but both are ice cream. Both agree. China's got to play by the rules. Here's the thing, this tough on China vibe? It's not just about who's in charge, it's about a whole shift in how Americans see China. Remember when everyone was freaking out about cheap Chinese products? Now it's about things like intellectual property theft and China's growing military power. Think of it like a neighborhood watch. At first everyone was worried about kids on bikes. Now, they're worried about something bigger, something that might actually be a threat. That's China in the eyes of many Americans right now. So even if a candidate wanted to be buddies with Beijing, they'd have a hard time convincing voters. It's like trying to sell someone a car they think is going to explode. Not an easy sell. Now about Kamala, she hasn't exactly been shouting her China policy from the rooftops. But there was this one speech right after she became vice president where she briefly touched on China. She talked about how the US needs to be clear-eyed about China's ambitions. It wasn't exactly a fiery declaration of war, more like a carefully worded warning shot across the bow. Like, hey China, we see you. Don't get any funny ideas. Of course, one tiny speech doesn't tell us everything, but it does give us a little peek into how she might handle things. One thing's for sure, if she wants to be tough on China, she's got plenty of support from both sides of the aisle. Section 5 experts say, buckle up. So, what do the experts think? Well, most of them agree. Get ready for a bumpy ride. They say no matter who wins, the US and China are in for some turbulence. It's like when your GPS tells you there's traffic ahead. You don't know exactly how bad it'll be, but you know you're going to be stuck in it for a while. That's US-China relations right now. The thing is, there are just too many points of friction. Trade, technology, human rights, Taiwan. It's like a couple that's been together too long. They've got a whole laundry list of grievances, and no one wants to do the dishes. Section 6. Climate change takes a back seat. One area where things are getting particularly chilly is climate change. Remember when the US and China were sorta working together on that? Yeah, those were the days. Now, with all the tension, climate cooperation has gone out the window. It's like they're two kids in a sandbox, both refusing to share their toys. My planet, my rules. That's not exactly a recipe for solving a global crisis. This is bad news for everyone, honestly. Climate change doesn't pick sides. It doesn't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, American or Chinese. It's gonna affect us all. Section 7 whispers across the Pacific. Taiwan, a major sticking point between the US and China. China sees Taiwan as a breakaway province. The US has pledged to help Taiwan defend itself. It's like a game of poker with Taiwan as the chips. China's been upping the ante lately. The US isn't about to fold. This makes people in Taiwan nervous. Section 8, Taiwan's tightrope walk. Taiwan's in a tough spot. They want to maintain their independence, but they also don't want to provoke China. It's like walking a tightrope while juggling chainsaws. One wrong move and things could go very badly. Taiwan's current leader is trying to walk that tightrope carefully. But it's unclear what will happen after the US election. Will the US continue to support Taiwan? Will China become more aggressive? These are the questions keeping people up at night in Taipei. The 2024 election could be a turning point for Taiwan. It could determine whether they continue to walk the tightrope or if they're forced to choose a side. Section 9, the future, a choose-your-own-adventure. So, what's the takeaway from all this? Basically, the future of US-China relations is about as clear as mud. It all depends on who wins the election, what their actual policies are, and how China reacts. It's like one of those choose-your-own-adventure books, but with much higher stakes. Will the US and China find a way to coexist peacefully? Or are we headed for a new Cold War? Will Taiwan remain independent? Or will it become part of China? One thing's for sure, it's going to be a wild ride. So buckle up, folks. The next 4 years are going to be interesting.